do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
It's Wednesday night. You know what that means. It means Joe is off doing something that he thinks is more important to this, which is attending the opening of a cancer center for his job. Like, come on, Joe. Where are your priorities? Helping people cure cancer or wrestling podcasting? But we're here. We've got me. We've got Ryan. We've got Taylor in the chat already. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here on this Wednesday night. It's C2 season, Ryan. Okay, I was gone for the Thanksgiving episode. Joe was out for the Thanksgiving episode. You were between two beards for the C2.
Lovely beards.
We love those guys. They're so awesome. They're so wonderful to fill in when we have people that are absent in their reliability and willingness to do so, but also like just always a fun watch and listen when they're around. So thank you for holding down the fort last week. Hello, Lord Kev in the chat. But we're cooking over here, Ryan. How you been? How was your Thanksgiving?
It was. What are we cooking? Something good?
Nothing good. I ordered out today.
Okay. I had shepherd's pie, but
nice.
I'm good. My Thanksgiving was great, delicious. Scott is showing appreciation to Joe because Scott is a 2-time cancer survivor. So way to go, Scott. And yeah, Joe just really letting us down, being unprofessional, but
yeah,
we persevere. How was your Thanksgiving since you weren't here last week?
It was good. It was chaotic, but it was good. I went to my parents, and then I was in New York with my sister from Sunday to Tuesday afternoon. So Pennsylvania, New York City, and then back to Jersey. I had like a tri-state tour. So it was wonderful. I was like more disconnected than I've been in a very long time. So it was good. It was good to kind of recharge a little bit, feed the old soul, as it were. But things are good, man. Things are good.
Wait, aren't you supposed to be in New York for Thanksgiving though? Because that's where the parade is.
So that's normally what we do. But this year, a couple of things. One, the past few years, we watched it from my sister's rooftop in her apartment, which is closed this year. So we would have been subjected to going out of the street, and it was pouring in the morning in New York. Buckets. Like, we were going to skip it because of hotel prices and the weather anyway, but she was still going to have friends that come over. And they bailed because they were like, yeah, it's raining sheets out there. But it tapered off like in time and during the parade, but it was nasty. My sister went down to watch out on the street a little bit because it's right outside of her place. But she was like, and going back up because it's disgusting out. So yeah. She was watching like on her projector while it was going by outside, which was pretty funny. But we're going to be going in for Christmas. So I'm looking forward to that because it's actually less chaotic there on Christmas, I think, than it is on Thanksgiving. So should be good.
Well, yeah, there's no Christmas parade.
No Christmas parade, and a lot of people just leave New York for the actual holiday itself. There's a ton of tourists around. She's like not far from Midtown. She's at the top of Midtown. So it'll still be chaotic in that way, but it'll be really fun. It'll be nice to spend that holiday together since we were split up for this one, but how about you? You have like turkey cooking responsibilities, man.
I did an excellent turkey.
Nice.
What's your game? Well. Oh, just you get a pre-brined because I've brined them in the past and I've learned that ends up being about the same. So actually, I go turkey breast. I don't want to deal with a lot of the other stuff because no one in my family eats it. I would, but no one else does.
Sure.
So we get a couple turkey breasts, but pre-brined versus brining yourself, never seen a difference. So I just get the pre-brined, salt, pepper, and melted butter all over it.
Okay, respect.
And then smoke it for about 2.5 to 3 hours.
Okay.
But I did too good of a job because there was none left over.
That's the
And
thing.
I wanted some turkey sandwiches.
Well, I mean, you can do that for yourself. It's an undertaking.
No, that's just I'm too lazy to do it for myself.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, good. You got to see some family too. Obviously, if you were cooking that much for people.
Actually, it was just for me. I made 3 turkeys for myself.
There you go.
10
Hell
things of
yeah.
stuffing. Now, yeah, I did see family. The whole gang gets together for Thanksgiving, so that's nice. We get together for everything, so I see them all the time.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't like you didn't have any extended family coming in either, right?
Not for Thanksgiving. We will for Christmas, but not for Thanksgiving.
Nice. Very nice. Well, good. How are your Flyers doing? I genuinely
Middle
don't
of the
control.
Middle of the road.
Middle of the road. Fair.
How are you handling the fact that your Yankees might not re-sign Soto?
I mean, it sucks, but it's also like, I mean, I don't think anybody's pulled ahead as far as anything. Like, it doesn't sound like there's any actual clear information on stuff, but it's tough because, like, how much are you going to keep spending on one player is the name of the game with these. They spent so much on Garrett Cole. They spent so much on Aaron Judge. The thing with Soto is he's the best player in the game, and he's so young. Like, so young with so many years ahead of him that that would be the killer, and he was such a difference maker this year. So it would suck. They're generally pretty good at retaining free agents that are like mega stars. But the fact they're talking to like Max Fried and other people with so much tenacity makes me wonder if they're like not in the running. So we'll see. They tend to land those big fish, but that's the biggest fish, and he's going to be like $700 bajillion. So
the money being talked about is insane.
Yeah, for one guy, like it's nuts.
Yeah, like I'm seeing over 600 million, and I'm sorry, I just don't see how you get that return of value.
Well, it's kind of that's what's so weird about the luxury tax versus the cap. Like, there's really no control over. Like, baseball went from being before like free agency proper was like such a shitty situation for players and agents, and now agents get the highest returns of any association, and any agents they're like in that 5% range, and there's not a cap, right? So it's just kind of an open season. So great for players, but not so great for trying to keep them around if they're not locked in for like 8 years at a time. But we've got some.
It's a wild league.
It is a wild league. I'm so not even with Soto, but like this golden hitter rule thing that has been circulating is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Have you heard this?
No, what is this?
Oh my God. The golden hitter is like you can put in your best player. Let me pull it up properly because it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's more gimmicky than the battle royal we saw tonight. Like,
each team will be allowed to choose at any one time in a game to bring in any player to the plate, even if it's not their turn in batting order. That's a terrible rule.
It's a terrible rule for so many reasons. And one that I really liked that Roger Clemens said, he was like, what if as a pitcher you work to get a guy out and they just decide he gets 6 strikes? Like, is there going to be any safeguard against that? Like, it's so many of the things that they've made are like adjustments to make the time faster. And they've been doing such a better job at that stuff. This is like just like a weird fucking gamble. I don't even like the ghosty on second rule, honestly, but we'll see.
I don't mind that in regular season. But
regular season a little easier, but man, it's a weird one. Thanks to everybody in the chat, by the way, who's filed in. Scott George, who Ryan shouted out earlier for being a 2-time cancer survivor. We're happy that you fought and are here with us. We are genuinely think Joe is pretty cool for what he's doing tonight. But Big G, Tim McFowle, thank you guys for hanging out with us, and we'll flip over into AEW mode here. I guess we can start kind of on the news and notes for us with the news that broke earlier today. There was some information about Ryan Nemeth and him submitting a timeline to AEW, alleging that he was silently fired over the CM Punk confrontation and a pattern of behavior. And it doesn't paint AEW in a great light. I think we all know that CM Punk was not like on his best behavior in AEW. We've learned that by now. There were multiple backstage fights. There were more threats of them. But Ryan Nemeth, who like it seems like from my reading of this, seems like he did a pretty fair job of trying to report behavior from issues that he had with Punk that were largely swept under the rug and largely ignored. It sounds like it does not paint AEW HR in a great light or legal or any of that. This is the second time Ryan Nemeth has had issues with somewhere. The first in NXT was very much validated by a lot of people who said that there was some very abusive behavior going on. Seems like he tried to resolve it like an adult to me. Like sometimes you look at patterns of behavior of people that have issues with their coworkers everywhere you go, right? And in this case, it was like Punk had major, very public ones, and Ryan Nemeth had issues in NXT that were backed up by a lot of other people, and now he's having issues here as well. But like, when I read the timeline of things, other than him saying that like softest guy alive tweet or whatever, which sounds like it might have been suggested as a shoot with some of the pressure promo behavior that they were putting out there in this, it's not great. It's not a great look for AEW. But did you have a chance to read this, Ryan? And what were your thoughts?
So I did read it. I can't quite figure out who did he release this to?
I need to double check the language of Sean's tweet because he said Sean's tweet, I think, said something to he saw a copy of the report. So
I just read it again.
It seems like the report was submitted internally and Sean came across it somehow.
Okay. I'm of two minds on this, and I'm not really of two minds. Nemeth, obviously everything phrased through one person's point of view is always favoring them. So that's the caveat. But his methodology seems sound in what you're supposed to do when you have issues. And I don't blame him for following up, especially if they did promise financial compensation and it was not given. I would follow up as well. My two minds when I wasn't certain where he sent it. The fact that he sent it to AEW changes. Like, I thought maybe he released this. I'm like, what are you doing? But the fact that he sent it to AEW and it came out, that's a whole different thing. It does seem he also kind of got caught up in the changing of guard there with Mega leaving her position, because it seems like things were progressing. She left. Things kind of regress, which is not unheard of in these kind of situations, that when someone new comes in, the stance is just completely different. You're right. It does not look great for AEW. It's also not the most terrible thing either. It's kind of like that nice middle ground of like bad, but not whatever. You are right. My first inclination before I read the report was like another issue somewhere, but I will say, if you're someone who doesn't keep his mouth shut, doesn't mean you're wrong.
Right. And it's not like wrestling is known for being the most professional environment across the board. And I think, there's a few things about this. One, seems like Ryan Nemeth went about things the right way, right? Like he did try to handle it internally. He was not public facing about things. And this was made public. And two, or became public. I don't know how Sean got a hold of it. And two, like it looks worse in retrospect, right? Like if this was the only issue that someone had with CM Punk, this is not like the worst. We also don't really have the details of what Punk did. There was just like, he made a threat. We don't know what was said. We don't know what that threat looked like, etc. Right? We do know Punk was blocking him from TVs. We do know there were like other things there. But like, if it was just Ryan Nemeth and Punk that had this, that would be one thing. But it was obviously a pattern of behavior that escalated. that it didn't seem like anybody had a hold on, because there were 2 backstage altercations, the press conference that preceded all of that. So if this was in a vacuum, I think it probably wouldn't look as bad on AEW. But the fact that the behavior escalated to the point that it did, that it ultimately led to CM Punk being terminated, it does kind of feel like they were letting him have a pass because he was the big star and everybody wanted the cinematic return. So it's weird. It's a weird one. The shoot promo thing seemed ridiculous to me. That was like the most out of pocket seeming thing of like, there's a difference between CM Punk saying, my locker is always open. If you have an issue, come talk to me. And there's an issue between, or there's a difference between something happened backstage and it turned public. So now we're going to make money off of it. And what Ryan Nemeth did, which was try to confidentially go about resolving it. And they said, hey, go out there and make it public. Like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous to me. Like, go fuel the fire that is not made public, that you're like, someone's trying to properly follow protocol and you just completely ignore it. Seems like a bad idea. Seems like a bad idea, but more CM Punk drama never stops, though crucially, like, this seemed like Ryan Nemeth obviously had an issue with CM Punk, but more his issue was the way that everything was handled, right?
Yeah, it just seems like this all goes back to the issue they had with Punk, which is, like you just said a couple seconds ago, they let him just run wild. He had free range over the entire locker room and was able to do what he wanted. And I always try to avoid right and wrong in situations that I know nothing about. But it does seem like, based on just how he's operating in another company, that he's probably someone who needs to be tightly controlled. As much as he hates it, it probably is for his own benefit and the benefit of the company that he doesn't have free range. Because when he does, he just goes crazy. And people like Ryan Nemeth, unfortunately, are not the type to just shut their mouth and take it.
The other thing that is funny is people are like very intent on saying that this never happens at WWE, it always happens at AEW or whatever. There are a couple of key factors with CM Punk going back to WWE, and these every 6 months or so, it seems like we get a report that CM Punk is a Boy Scout back there, right? There's a few things. The first is, I think he knows this is his last chance to make millions of dollars in wrestling and to control his legacy. And the second thing is, and I'm sorry, but it's true. You know who CM Punk didn't have an issue with? Guys who are way fucking bigger than him. That's never happened. Sorry. Like, Kenny Omega is not that much bigger than CM Punk. The Young Bucks are not that much bigger than CM Punk. He did not have a problem with Miro. He did not have a problem with Drew McIntyre. There's a lot of just bigger dudes who could kick his ass to Tuesday in WWE. I know that might be a reach. I know whatever. I know he was UFC trained. If you saw the segment on Monday, though, he did not look so much UFC trained. But, like, literally, there's just more guys in WWE that you're not going to pick a fight with because he's an old dude who would get his ass beat by someone that's 6'8" over there. Legit. I
mean, that's where
I think that's fair.
Jericho. I mean, that's where you have to respect Jericho. He'll pick a fight with anyone.
Yeah.
Like regardless of what you say, he's not afraid to stand up for his beliefs. It's, you know, Big G saying absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I think that, you know, it's a obviously a statement, but I think there's a little bit of truth to that. I also just think Punk, for better or worse, sees things through the lens in which he sees them. And he has a very tough time seeing another person's point of view. And when he's under control of someone and he's told, you're not to worry about that, it works until it doesn't. Eventually he gets, but when he's not, he just can't stop himself. And at first I can't fault AEW, and we were rehashing a lot of old stuff, but I can't fault him because he came back. He was happy. He has a great wrestling mind. I understand their desire to be like, hey, we'll give you a lot of freedom here. That's how we got you back.
Sure.
WWE is benefiting from the fact that he got the love of wrestling back, and he's burnt his other bridge.
Yeah. Like wrestling can always mend fences. When I hear Kenny Omega talk about it, I'm so blown away by his perspective on all of it. Like the couple things that he said the first time around, he was like, it's just so silly. And he's right. It's a fucking joke that this is what these guys are fighting over in real life, right? And I don't know. I really respect Kenny for being like, sometimes you just need to fight to get over your shit. Like, I think that was the hope the first time around with all this, was just like, you punch it, like dudes just do that. Like they punch each other and then they move on. So I do think all of it's just unfortunate, but I think with Punk like being on his best behavior in WWE, it's not a coincidence that that's his last chance to make millions of dollars doing this. Like it's just not. And it was an ecosystem that isn't only 5 years old. I think the most astute thing Punk has ever said about his time in AEW was that he felt like him and Tony Khan were in different businesses. And that was probably a crucial difference that would have been much better off if realized in real time. But most importantly, I just wanted to say hi to Jesse Ozak.
I love that I blatantly admit what the gimmick is, but I still go by it.
I know. I respect it. So I feel bad for Ryan Nemeth in this. Like it feels like he went about things the way you're supposed to go about things, which is a bummer. It hit him thinking that he got silently fired certainly holds up if you look at the timeline and the lack of bookings. So it just sucks. And it all continues to kind of drip from the same well. But if you see the headline and not the report, it's very easy to fill in the blank with details and catastrophize things and whatever. It's much less about CM Punk and much more about the way AEW handled things with what Ryan Nemeth brought to their attention. If you read the actual report, which not to put my boss over or whatever, but like I thought he did an excellent job on something that had a lot of like nuance and sensitive information on this report.
It's been well established that in the first 5 years of the company, AEW's had some failings, I guess is the word, or weakness on the actual business side of things. Not wrestling related, not TV product related, but the actual in-house business. And HR was one of them. I don't know how it is now, but at least initially, HR was not their strong suit. They didn't.
Right.
And I think WWE, like you said, they're they're like a 50-something. I mean, they're older than that, but it's WWE. They're 40-something-year-old company, since whatever. And they got to get through a lot of their growing pains when there wasn't weekly television. They got to establish a lot of this. They got to experience their weekly television growing pains when there wasn't really this strong of an internet presence. There was, and yet chat rooms and all that and message boards, but not like we have today. So that's not to say AEW is in the right for anything. It's just that their growing pains are far more visible because of the environment we're in today.
I also think, and I've mentioned this before, but like in the beginning, everything was in one spot too. Like everything was at Daly's place because they were in the pandemic for a good chunk of their time. And then all of a sudden they hit the road and everything changed, right? So that is the way it is. But the other big kind of news that we have is a bummer one. Juice Robinson, unfortunately injured in his match with Will Ospreay. He was probably set up to be a pin eater. So as far as the tournament being on or off track, I think we're probably looking at the replacement of Commander doing a 1-to-1 or close to situation where at least 3 losses, if not losing out entirely, maybe 3 losses and a draw or whatever. I would have preferred to see like a Bowens or a Leo Rush in there, but if they want someone who can eat pins, I understand going with Commander. But just sucks. It feels like we just got Juice back not that long ago, and here we are with a broken leg. He was on crutches at WrestleCade. hopefully it was just like an easy break and his road to recovery will be an easy one. But was excited to see, even though he was probably going to lose, he's a really good in-ring wrestler, so I was looking forward to those matches. But just sucks. Injuries suck. What do you think of the replacement here, Ryan? And any thoughts you want to give?
Poor Juice. My man can't catch a break. Back injury, now this. Is there a timeline on his return yet?
Not that I've seen. Not that I've seen from anybody reliable.
It really sucks because I think this tournament was going to be a chance for him to shine. He's, like you said, he's a very good wrestler, almost underappreciated for how good he is because he's so fun to watch in other aspects that I think this was going to be his chance to be like, hey, I'm the complete package and you guys can really like me. I get the commander fill-in.
Sure.
If you don't have a built-in story for someone else, is it worth putting them in there to eat those pins because you're not going to have them win? Like, it's just going to be losses for somebody. Whereas Commander is going to give you a lot of fun matches, but the losses aren't going to hurt him either because it's Commander. If those guys fall in that weird, luchadors kind of fall in a weird thing where like they lose a whole bunch, but then they also randomly win a bunch, and you're like, I don't know where you fit at the moment. So Jesse, Kate's mic is popping for all of us. She just pops.
I think my mic was on my headphones, so I switched it. Hopefully,
it was very much.
There you go. It's been a little funky in how it's identified in StreamYard, so I thought it was hooked up yesterday, and it wasn't. So,
hi, Kate, and who I can only assume is the distant relative of Benjamin Franklin. First, I'm missing the joke there by joke, and someone. Philly. I guess I get it. There you go.
Because Philadelphia.
I know, but I don't look.
They don't all have to be Rocky jokes, okay? Joe is.
Do I look like Ben?
There you are. Now you kind of do because you got the tilt.
I have 83 STDs.
Oh no! Someone please clip that at the 27, 22-ish mark. But
it was actually the 29-minute mark. Thank you very much.
There you go.
But yeah, I get it. Again, the luchadors take a lot of losses and then suddenly they win again. I don't quite understand how that works for them, but they're fine for this. The bushy hair point on the side. Nah, yeah, that makes sense. I got to get a haircut.
There you go. Mutton chop Ryan over there.
Oh, yeah, I do have the mutton chops. I'm not a fan.
My only concern with that is, like, I think Commander's looked really good in his more recent matches. The one with Kyle Fletcher was the most outstanding that I think I've seen him in AEW, at least. I just hope that the versatility is there to go through this, because sometimes I feel like that's the case with luchadors, and I just don't want it to be like luchadors eat pins in this tournament.
You know what sucks? The best fill-in for him had a vignette tonight.
Who? Julia Hart?
Bandito.
Yeah, I don't think you want to burn his return on tournament losses, though.
Oh no, you'd have to have him win some. He'd actually have to come out looking strong. But I'm just saying, ignoring that, like, his fill-in would have been amazing.
He would have been excellent in that bracket from a match perspective, for sure. That's part of the problem with the C2 is I'm like, I don't want anybody to lose. I don't want anybody to lose in this tournament. When I'm watching the G1, I'm like, yes, House of Torture, I want you to lose all your matches. Like, that's not the case because the spots are a little bit more precious here. So it is what it is. But Ryan, that's kind of all on the news and notes front. So we are going to just tell you out loud, like, hey, there's t-shirts. But more importantly,
that works.
We'll plug them properly at the end. But you guys, y'all know there's t-shirts on ProWrestlingTees.com. Mark order. Go type it in. If you missed your Black Friday deal, well, I'm sorry, but
I'm not.
What we will do is tell you about some of the great shows here on the Shining Wizards Network. The Shining Wizards celebrating 13 years in this great sport, in this industry, okay? Matt also, and all the guys have been on Fridays really hitting up the independent scene. He went to GCW over the past weekend, or the weekend before, rather, at the American Dream show where Ricky Starks was, as the Starks turn, of course, a big thing from last week. But he's been checking some stuff out while I was at Nigel's show. They were at that Arrival show that had such an incredible card with Michael Oku on it and a bunch of other really great talent. So be sure to give those guys some love. But why would we sit here and yap about all the great shows on the Shining Wizards Network when you could hear straight from them?
We'd like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in every Monday night to listen to The Shining Wizards. If you'd like to continue to support us outside of listening, we've got a few ways for you to do that. If you shop at Amazon, go over to amazon.shiningwizards.com, do your shopping as usual, and when you make your purchase, a little bit of that purchase price will go back to support the show. If you like to wear t-shirts, merch.shiningwizards.com will take you to our Pro Wrestling Tees store, where we've got over a dozen great designs from over 11 years of professional wrestling podcasting. You can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/wizardspodcast, where each and every week we call out your name as one of our show producers, and the more you support us, the more things that you're entitled to receive, and believe me, they are fantastic. If you can't support us monetarily, if you don't shop at Amazon, that's absolutely fine. Continue to listen to us wherever you listen to us on the World Wide Web, and make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, helps us out, and we can continue to bring you the love fest that is The Shining Wizards.
What's up, folks? It's your boy, the Impact Player, Mr. Philly Ray, inviting all of you to check out the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Join us as we cover all things current in the world of pro wrestling, as well as paying homage to the old school, the Squared Circle. So listen in and find out why we are the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting. Find us on all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast from. And as always, we are the proudest members of the Shining Wizards Network and Rant Entertainment Media.
Are you tired of being lied to every day by the mainstream media?
Do you want to know what's really going on in the world?
Do you want to make up your own mind about things and not be told what to think or say?
Then listen to Inconclusive Breakdown, a weekly anti-PC look at the world of entertainment and current events, brought to you without censorship or filters.
You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, BitChute, and on ShiningWizardsNetwork.com.
And also, we're a proud member of the Shining Wizards Network.
Got 30 minutes to kill?
Come check out 30 Screams or Less, where we review a horror movie in 30 minutes or less. We cover new movies and old ones too.
We'll give our honest thoughts on the movie, good or shit, as well as a rating of each one that we watch.
New episodes weekly, available on the Shining Wizards Network and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Corey.
Come check us out at 30 Screams or Less.
G'day guys, my name is Thomas, one half of the Broadcast Podcast. With our podcast, we go back and watch wrestling events from WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, AEW, and many other wrestling promotions. You can check us out on Twitter at The Broadcast, that's TheBrokast, and you can also download all episodes on Apple Podcast, Castbox, Castro, and many other podcast apps.
If you like your music heavy, then check out Radioactive Metal on the Shining Wizards Network. For over 16 years now, Radioactive Metal has been one of the longest running podcasts. Over the years, we've interviewed some legendary metal acts, had some awesome discussions, and cranked a hell of a lot of tunes. So join your cool Uncle Snowy and his co-host Aaron for the audio mosh pit that is Radioactive Metal here on the Shining Wizards Network.
Well, the action is underway!
What's up, everyone? When on the Shining Wizards Network, be sure to check out Wrestling Night in Canada. If we're not recording another kick-ass podcast,
Or playing in punk bands.
Or recording kick-ass heavy metal albums.
then we're sitting back, we're grabbing a couple brews, and going over everything to do in the world of pro wrestling.
Because we're from Winnipeg, you idiots.
The Mark Order Podcast is the only show you need if you're looking for dedicated coverage of everything AEW on the Shining Wizards Network. Join us live on YouTube every Wednesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern after Dynamite to chat along with the show. If you can't join us live, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social channels at MarkOrderPod and use the hashtag #JoinTheMarkOrder, because if you don't find us,
we will find you.
I'm Kevin Rowe.
I'm Al Day.
And we're a couple of down under pounders that co-host Rogue Day Dots, an action figure collecting podcast where we talk about, well, just about anything that tickles our fancy at any given moment.
We're grumpy old men, and sometimes people get on our nerves. And when you get on our nerves, guess what? You get off the lawn.
Get off my lawn, asshole! We also go on a little bit of a mission. We go back and we're grading every wrestling figure line that's out there. I'm talking LJNs. I'm talking Jacks. I'm talking Hasbros. Who doesn't like a little Hulkaplex? It's a Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production found on the Shining Wizards Network.
I'm Duke Bags.
Kevin Rowe.
And together we are the co-hosts of Your Duke and Road. If you want to hear about some terrible wrestling shows, we got you covered.
Well, we talk about good ones, too.
We're currently talking about the death of WCW.
I know what we're fucking talking about. Sometimes we get guest spots, like from the Taskmaster. I like to listen to the Year of Duke and Rope podcast. They're funny guys. That I like when they talk about the Nards plows. I like Nards plows. That's a good move. And I like the Dungeon of Doom. You know, sometimes I call my butt the Dungeon of Doom. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, to Oklahoma.
Let me tell you a little bit about my favorite wrestling podcast. All right. It's a podcast with two men, Duke Bags, Kevin Rowe. They talk about professional wrestling. It's a man's sport. All right? And who better to talk about a man's sport than Duke? Oklahoma.
And once in a while, Vince Russo stops by.
Oh, you piece of shit! If you're not listening to the Year of Duke and Rope podcast in the back with the boys, you piece of shit, I don't know what you're doing. It's, you gotta slide one in there. If you're a man, you're talking about something only a man can do. You're talking about sliding one in there. Bro, take the time to slide one in there. All right, bro, you piece of shit. Slide one in there. A Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production that you can find on the Shining Wizards Network.
So, Kate decided to big time me in the middle of the show, which is kind of rude. Oh, wait, is she? Nope, still not here. Is she coming back? Yeah, I mean, she said her Chrome disconnected. I don't know if I believe that. I think she's just big time in the show again. Hello there.
I'm back. What's cooking?
You made it back just in time. I only had to vamp for about 20 seconds.
Good. That was my goal, was to get back in there. Sorry about that. My Chrome crashed on me as I was trying to reorganize my notes and everything. Can you hear me okay? Am I like normal?
You sound fine to me. I'll let Chad be the decider.
I'm glad I'm not laggy, but let's get back into this episode of Dynamite here. I will say there are still a lot of things that I am very annoyed by on AEW Dynamite, but the C2, I'm like, it was here to save us last year. I feel like it's here to save us again, because at minimum, you're going to get a bunch of matches that show out and are great. So that was refreshing. Still a lot of tropes that they have to address. It's very annoying that we have like these 7-minute overruns, and they're like, it's definitely for men's wrestling, though. You're never going to get more women's wrestling. But what did you kind of think overall tonight?
So The nice thing is, I will say, the C2 avoids most of those bad tropes because of the rules it puts in place. Like C2, if they could just look at the way they booked the C2 and say, let's book everything like this, they'd be way better off. Clean finishes, clear wins. And if a person cheats, it's a one-on-one cheat, which to me always feels different. It's not the same as interference. It's the heel just being smarter. So I love the C2 matches. I actually really liked tonight's Dynamite. I know there was some of their same issues, but I think they also fixed some things that were going a little wonky. They're almost to that ratio that I think most wrestling companies are, which is like 60-40 of good to bad. I know that sounds, as the optimist, that sounds weird that I'm saying it that way, but if I'm being objective, most wrestling falls in but when a company is going good, about 60% of it is hitting really well. And then 40% you continue to have to work on. I mean, if you look at the other company, it's probably at that ratio right now. If you look back in the past, if you look at the best time in Dynamite history, it's probably that same ratio.
No, I feel like the best times in Dynamite history. The problem, I think, is like I shudder to think what happens if they get a third show. You know what I mean? Like when they just had Dynamite, it was like I think they were like at 70-30 with stuff that wasn't hitting because they only had 2 hours to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, the problem. I agree with what you're saying. I think part of the problem is the desire to like. How do I say this? I understand. Let me put it this way. I understand why WWE does the brand split. I don't love it, but I understand it, and I like a softer version of that. And I wish AEW would lean into that more. Which is every show does not need every major star, but you have enough stars that you can spread them out over every show and still have a bunch of sub stories. So in theory, a third show shouldn't be a negative. It should be a chance for those guys on the undercard who aren't on ROH, who are just doing their own thing in AEW, to have their own stories while being supported by some of the big names floating along the top. But for whatever reason, it just never feels like there's either no one there or everyone's there.
Yeah, well, I think part of I'm very excited for the C2, and I get why Daniel Garcia is in it. It was such a fundamental thing for his character. But like part of this is we have new tag champions. We have Daniel Garcia and we have Takeshita, all his new champions, and none of them have stories. None of them. Yes. None of them have stories around those belts. And one of the trios champions is in this, right? So like, what are we doing with the rest of the show? Like, why is Collision just flapping its wings in the air? Like it's so weird. Like put your title programs on a Saturday. More people tune in, but I don't want to harp too negatively because this was a better episode, but at the beginning of this episode.
Hold on, you kind of got me on that one when you mentioned how many titles they have. And I think that's part of the issue here is that you have a world championship, you have an international title, you have a continental title, and you have a TBS title. Spread them out. Have major stories of two of them be occurring on Collision and have the other two be occurring on Dynamite. And they can flip-flop on which show they show up so that you don't go like, oh, tonight I'm only going to see this. But let them be the driver of the story for that night.
And to your point, Ryan, like with all of that, I kind of feel like Jon Moxley doesn't really care about the title that much. Maybe because visually it's always in a fucking bag. But he's so set out on destroying the AEW locker room and these egos backstage. Like, it almost doesn't feel like he needs the title or cares that much about the title and all of this to me. But let's dive in because we can talk about that nuance as we go here. But before the show starts, you had in the Gold League, Claudio, Brody King, Will Ospreay all having 3 points. You had Ricochet, Darby Allin, and Commander having no points. Commander, of course, having no points in part because he is replacing Juice Robinson here. So clean slate I think Juice's loss is not something he inherits, which feels fair. And then in the Gold League, you have Claudio, Brody King, and Will Ospreay all with 3 points. Ricochet. Oh, wait. I think I copied and pasted my same leagues. I'm sorry. Let me read the proper blue league there if I have it. Do I have it? I don't think I have it. If I try and reopen the tab, it'll fucking crash everything again. So bear with me. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Where's my blue league? I'm going to pull up my blue league on my phone. Bear with me. While I'm doing that, I will also say that I don't think I want to go to Final Battle anymore after seeing the fucking spoiler.
It's the final battle.
If you don't want the spoiler, now is the time to mute us. Wheeler, mute us. Fucking, are you kidding me? Matt Cardona versus Chris Jericho. Are you kidding?
I don't get it. I'm gonna be honest. You know me. I'm in for the ride. I don't get it.
It feels like they know that they pulled that Ricky Starks match from him, so that they felt like they had to do something. And this is horseshit. Like, somebody who could not be less ROH feeling, somebody that hasn't worked the promotion a day in his life, against fucking Jericho, who also feels like he has nothing to do with ROH, as the 2-time champion of this promotion. Nauseous. Absolutely nauseous.
Yeah, because it's not even like Cardona has like history. Like, oh, you know, he was there before the purchase by AEW, and this really is a homecoming for him. Like, he has no history there.
Nope. Not at all. Your blue league, Shelton Benjamin, Kyle Fletcher having 3 points. Okada in that draw with Daniel Garcia, both of them having 1 point. Mark Briscoe and Beast Mortos having no points. They're going to be pin eaters. I don't know why you have Mark Briscoe doing that for a second year, but is what it is. We move into our show. Daddy Magic on Dynamite in it. I want to say we've said that a couple times, but this was another thing. And I think it's his strengths are so specific and he's great at them, but man, calling tournament matches is a different ball game. So that was something I noticed tonight. Do you feel the same way? I mean, I'm always missing Nigel. He's my guy, but like tonight, especially.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing. He's just, he was perfect on Rampage. I know Rampage is going away, so they're probably trying to find a spot for him. Yeah. But that was clearly his best spot. He could, it was only an hour and his attitude fit those matches, but it doesn't fit what's going on Dynamite. It's a different flow.
Agreed. We also just have some more people in the chat to shout out. Hi, John. Hi, Laron. Hi, 1LT Photo. Thank you guys for hanging out with us as we finally dig into this episode, but we do get a video package. I don't think there's a ton to say about it. I was hoping we could just kind of start with this first match of Shelton Benjamin versus Kyle Fletcher, and I know my boss at Fightful was happy about this one. It was slow to start. I was like a little nervous about it, honestly, but Kyle Fletcher with the roll up while he's holding out of the ropes, he steals the win. One of the few things that you can do as a way of cheating in this, which I kind of like from Kyle Fletcher, but it was fun because I think people know Shelton Benjamin's not winning, but they're so glad he's in this that they really naturally want to root for him. And they really are anti-Kyle Fletcher now. Like, I think the Ospreay match worked for that. So there was just this really clean, clear, one-on-one, that's the good guy, that's the bad guy thing. I felt like that we had going in this, but that slingshot sunset flip was awesome toward the end of this too. That whole ending sequence was pretty good. I don't love roll-ups, but I get why they did it here. Like, I don't mind a roll-up when it looks like someone's genuinely like, I could win if I get this right now kind of thing. And that was the impression I got from Kyle Fletcher. It wasn't like, someone's music hit and I'm a fucking idiot, so here I am standing for you to roll me up. Like, this was a much better one. Kyle Fletcher knows how to apply a roll up too, which was helpful. But I was a little concerned because the first 5 to 6 minutes of this, I felt like were really, really slow. And then we got cooking in the middle and the end of this. Kyle Fletcher, I feel like them capitalizing on the momentum that they built with him is a very, very healthy thing for this product that they need. What did you think of our opener here?
So a couple things. We were talking today about an unrelated topic that we're not going to go into, but as part of it, I said one way to make a really good heel is kind of what they're doing with the New Day over in WWE, which is have one wrestler really hurt emotionally someone everyone loves. And that's what they did with Fletcher and Ospreay. Ospreay is as over can be, and they had Fletcher emotionally hurt him, and that makes him a great heel. Now, it doesn't hurt that he's very good at hamming it up, and he's an excellent wrestler, but that's what it was. I also want to point out that the roll-up is an interesting pin because getting to it makes no sense. But once you have a guy in that position, it probably is the best method to pin them because that is the hardest to get out of.
It is when it's applied properly, when somebody puts someone's weight back on their shoulders, it makes a lot of sense. And when it's done because it looks like, well, I can't apply and set up for my finisher. I have a chance right now to put this person away is good. If I do something and it's not enough to put someone away, but real quick, I did enough punishment that I can capitalize. That I get. But
yeah, so that just always makes me, laugh. Like it is not a good way to get there, but once it's in, it's like, yeah, have someone sit on right. Like that. Yeah,
a bad roll up is hysterical. Like
it's
so easy to get out of. It's funny.
This does seem like they're letting Shelton show out every match he has, being like, remind people how good you really are, even at your age.
Yes.
And what's interesting is the matches all feel different. Like you said, this one started slow, but ramped up. And Shelton looked like the savvy vet at times, but then he loses because his opponent grabs the rope, which is, one, not really a way a vet usually loses, but also, interestingly, puts him more in the babyface side of this match than the heel side. And you had two heels. So I just found that really interesting. And I guess Don Callis, when he's on commentary, doesn't count as being at ringside.
I think as long as his ass stays parked, he's on commentary, right? Because he's not at ringside.
A really funny way of. I don't want it. I actually kind of do want it. If they're trying to hand Fletcher a loss but not have it be bad, that would be a funny way of being like, Callis stood up.
Yeah. I wouldn't be mad about that. If you want to set up rules to break them, that's a fun way to go about it.
Did you see the lines on Fletcher's shoulder?
Yes.
I guess from the stairs, maybe.
I think so too.
Oh, they looked bad, those welts.
I think so too. Well, let's move on here. We've got Hook, who grabs the mic here. There's chance for Hook early in this. Nick Wayne heard what Hook is saying here. He says, you want to fight him in New York City? He'd rather fight Christian Cage and leave him a mess. And Nick can come down and fight right now if he wants to. But Christian Cage and Mama Wayne come out. It's a ruse as Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian attack from behind. Another thing that they're just doing way too fucking much of. Just way, way, way too much of with this. Shocker, a 3-on-1 beatdown. But Kip Sabian goes outside to get the chair. We got 2 chairs in the ring. Looks like there's going to be a concerto. But the chair is down on the wrist of Hook. And Christian Cage talks a bunch of trash. And the patriarchy head out. So, if you had AEW Dynamite bingo, attacks from behind in a numbers game, backstage attacks would be on there. Like every day, Ryan, I do podcasts like every day. And with Raw and with NXT and with AEW Dynamite and with, ROH doesn't even have a playbook. They don't give a shit about their promotion, obviously.
That must be refreshing though. At least it's different.
I will say the infantry being with Shane Taylor Promotions is interesting. the women's division at least has some stuff going on, but like, at least I'm not seeing the same thing. At least they're just giving me, even if there's no stories, at least it's just like, here's some matches that don't have all of the same crap context around them. Same with SmackDown. And if I reviewed Collision, same with Collision. Like, and it's bad enough when it's happening across every show. It's even worse when it's happening within your own show multiple times an episode or whatever, or back-to-back weeks this often. This is the kind of crap that makes it feel like, how is this the same product as the C2? You know what I mean? But what's annoying is a lot of times the execution of these segments is just fine. Like, the execution of this was just fine. I just knew what was going to happen because I fucking see it every week. So I thought they did a good job. I'm very happy to see Kip Sabian on TV consistently. That guy's been working his ass off and knows what he's doing. What did you think of this segment?
So my issue, so you're right, that this would be like dead center square on a bingo card.
Yeah, it's free space this. Yeah.
And I think part of the reason it's starting to frustrate me so much is because they're starting to do something that AEW avoided for a long time. And that was dumb faces. Your hook. You're coming out by yourself, unarmed. You don't have a bat. You don't have a chair. You have nothing. And you're calling out a guy who runs 3D at all times. And he walks out and you don't see the other two. And you're surprised they hit you. I don't understand it. Like, that's where they're making faces look dumb again. And that always bothers me because, like, if he thought he had taken care of them, or if they had pulled off a trick somehow, I still think I'd be getting annoyed with all the beatdowns. But at least I'd be like, okay, the face isn't an idiot. He got beat.
Well, and I was just sitting there like, oh, sick, Samoa Joe's coming back is what I was thinking during this. Because Samoa Joe is the kind of guy that could equalize that side of a faction or a couple of shares. And then Samoa Joe just didn't come back. So yeah. That was a bummer. But let's move on to Renee Paquette. This would be on the bingo board too. Renee not being able to just ask questions and have her job done. But I like Mercedes doing this because it's always her doing it to her every week of like, actually, I'm going to cut you off so I can say name of city. Say hello to your CEO. And she kind of playfully in this is like, you know, this is going to happen, Renee. Like, stop. But Renee wants to know what Mercedes thinks of Camille being attacked backstage last week. And she says, I don't care. Camille doesn't work for me. She quit. So she's concerned about Anna Jay because she stuck her nose in her business and she'll be watching her match tonight. There's a price to pay when you mess with Monet. The pacing of this stuff with Camille feels very odd. But I like what happens later. Let's just talk about it now since it all kind of goes together. We get a really good match between Penelope Ford and Anna Jay. Very nice to see some title adjacent stuff happening. I know this is to further along Anna's trajectory toward Mercedes, but like this was productive to me. And Anna looked really good. Her footwork since coming back from Japan is just on another level with stuff. So more of that, more excursions, please. But Penelope looking good coming off of injury too. Like she was out for almost 2 years. People forget. So I liked this. This was encouraging to see. You see the Gourd Buster, which was nice, and Anna gets the win. That Muda Lock is something that's really fun that she picked up along the way. A nice stunner in this as well. And then there were parts of it that were sloppy, but it was fun sloppy for me. I didn't mind it. But Mercedes comes out after and kind of taunts her a little bit, calls her a kid, and says, you want a shot at this? Do something in this business for the next 10 years and we'll talk then. And Anna Jay slaps her, which Mercedes sells the hell out of. And that's our women's in-ring for the night and the segment that set it up. So I'll throw all that over to you, Ryan. What did you think?
So first, the Mercedes interview. I do appreciate that not only did she make Renee stop, But I do. Renee said CEO when she got to it, and it visibly annoyed Mercedes. And it's going to add to nothing, but I just appreciated that little addition to the story of like Renee seems a little fed up with every time Mercedes shows up, she's got to go through this whole spiel. Like, and I would too, because we know who you are.
Yeah.
Let's just do the interview. I thought the match was pretty decent, especially for those two. I never thought stylistically they would have like an all-timer, but very solid from two workers who I think I'm glad are getting more and more time.
Yes, agreed. So what the women's division needs, honestly, is more stuff like that.
Yeah. So I'm really happy Penelope. We've talked about this before, but I'm really happy Penelope's back. They need more heels at that level. You have Harley, and you have Penelope, and then there's high-end heels, but there's not a lot.
Should be, yeah. I mean, they don't treat Deanna like one, but she should be.
No, but she should be. And Anna Jay's great. I got nothing to say against her. I've loved watching her development over the years. The promo after was a lot of fun. I like Mercedes putting over Statlander, basically being like, she was the biggest, strongest, female in this company, and if she can't beat me, what do you expect to do? Like, it puts Statlander over, it puts Mercedes over, and when Anna Jay is going to lose, but when she takes her to the limit, it helps Anna Jay because now she's put on that level. So that was really well done. I'm just happy that this feels unique.
Yes,
I would have never predicted this matchup, and I love it. It's a good way of keeping things. Truthfully, the AEW's women division right now, I like as of tonight, and unfortunately, it's been swinging wildly. As of tonight, I like the stories involved and like how they have everyone seeming to being spread out.
Yeah.
They just don't get enough time. And
Agreed.
That's what it comes down to. The stories themselves, I actually really enjoy. I just wish they had more time to tell them.
SP3 brought up a really good point in that when this division was at its peak, you weren't consistently getting 2 matches a show on every episode, but you were at least getting one extra one sprinkled throughout the week on some episode, meaning that if there wasn't 2 on Dynamite, there were likely 2 on Collision, or, the one, they often do 2 on Rampage, but one of them's a squash, right? And he was like, what that did was allow traveling breathing room for another story to develop. And he's absolutely right about that. Like,
yeah,
there was, all it took was one match just in the week to give it some breathing room. But I agree with you. This was a good call. I see people in the chat saying a lot of what I saw online of, can we get Penelope some wins back? I think there's a couple things they could do. One, she might need some help from some other people, maybe in the Vendetta. Or 2, like she just got back from a very severe injury. She might just want to make sure she has her legs under her again before they give her a serious push. I had been told by a couple people that the other day when there was one women's match and it was like 4 minutes long, they had slotted like 6 minutes, but she just didn't want to overdo. So they went home a couple minutes early. I think a lot of people overestimate maybe. There's a big difference between 5 and 9 minutes. But I think when you're in the ring, there's not that big of a difference between 4 minutes and 30 seconds and 6 minutes. So there are things like that. But I was encouraged to see this matchup. As well.
I'm going to say this, and I'm not going to go on a long rant. I'm not going to cate it up tonight. This is where they would really benefit from women's tag titles.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like ridiculous.
You have the Vendetta, and you could put Penelope in there, and it could be Deanna and Taya, or Deanna and Penelope, or it could be Penelope and Taya as a tag team. Not saying they have to be champs, but just you could then form the stables, which clearly benefit the men, and they would benefit the women if you threw in some tag belts that help give everyone something to do.
Big Boss saying, I'm sorry, but women's wrestlers is not a draw. First of all, learn some grammar. Second of all, when it's not fucking presented right, it's not a draw. When you have no time or room, it's not a draw. You're going to tell me Rhea Ripley is not a draw. You're going to tell me that Becky Lynch is not a draw. You're going to tell me that Mercedes, when her character connecting, is not a draw. It's a fucking draw when they get treated with some of the same treatment that the men get treated with. What happens is when you have one match, a fucking episode, if it's mediocre or less, the narrative becomes women's wrestling sucks. That's what fucking happens. It can be a draw if it's supported appropriately with resources. I'm so fucking sick of that nonsense.
Okay, couple things here. Big G Vendetta is Deanna and Taya. You might not know that because they are very sporadically used, and they both rule. Second, I'm starting to wonder if Big Boss is just a giant fan of ours and was like, we need a Kate rant to boost their.
There you go.
Yeah.
Flip it. Put it out there. It's the most dog shit thing in the. Yeah, you can just block him. Why Sable and Sunny was the draw was because of sex. Are you just fucking Vince Russo? Like, get the fuck out of the chat. That's just the most outdated thinking. Outdated thinking.
I mean, the number one. Granted, it was very poorly told because it focused around a man, but the number one story in WWE for a little while was Rhea Ripley and Liv.
Yeah. The only thing good on Raw. Like carrying Raw, rather. I wouldn't even say it was good.
Yeah. And Becky Lynch for how long was the show?
Yeah.
Oh.
Mercedes and Bailey during the pandemic was the only program that was any good. Like, it's just a fucking dog shit excuse, but hey, so was this Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal. I gotta say, this was not my favorite thing on the show. They like Adam Cole got an entrance, so obviously he was gonna be one of the two left. And when he looked in the ring, I wasn't like, I wonder if it's gonna be him and Uno. Like, of course it was gonna be Kyle O'Reilly. This was predictable, and I gotta say, like, I'm certainly no match agent, but I've seen a lot of really effective battle royals where it wasn't 90% a bunch of guys standing around. I think Lance Archer not being in the final three is stupid. It feels like they just started that tag team, and now it's just like there's just guys around.
Wasn't he in the final four?
Was he in the final four? I thought he got thrown out.
I thought Cole eliminated him, and Cole eliminated what's his name? Brian Cage, and O'Reilly eliminated Archer. I thought that was the
okay. They're probably setting something up then. That's my bad.
Yeah, they each eliminated someone at the same time.
Good. Maybe I was just so distracted because what is Brian Cage doing with a full beard? I was very uncomfortable.
He doesn't look like himself.
He looks. Let me be clear. He doesn't look bad, but I was like
Jake something a little bit.
I could see that.
From a distance. I'm not saying up close, but from a distance, this big muscly man with a beard. I'm like, who the hell is this?
Like, who is this? A guy on his own burner talking to himself is pretty funny. I just want to say it's so obvious. Yeah, this was all just obvious, and there was just a lot of standing around, sitting around spots while four guys were doing a thing. Like, that's my least favorite kind of battle royal. I'm glad that you caught that because I didn't. So it means they're probably setting something up, which is good.
Part of the reason you didn't catch it, and I'm not, is because of the camera angle of the ending. They focused on Cole and Cage, and then they pulled out to deliver the the two moves to eliminate them both at the same time, I should say. And you didn't really get a chance to see who was on the right. It was done very quickly.
Fair. I was also just not like in love with this, so admittedly, I was not paying the closest amount of attention.
So I love battle royals. The Royal Rumbles battle royals, they're my thing.
You're like me with tournaments about them.
Yes. But this was not my favorite one. Just something about this felt off. I also feel like they could have done a better job of building to this. This could have been a big deal for those people not in the Continental Classic. This could have been like, you do some, it doesn't have to be long, could have just been all online, could have been all on, social media. Quick vignettes of like, they didn't put me in the Continental Classic, but I'm coming out to win this battle royal. Because this is my shot to prove who I am. I'm going to take that ring from MJF. But instead, it was just so clearly thrown away to tell the story of these two.
Yeah, it did feel like a waste. I do appreciate that they have that. I forgot until it happened. They announced it. That they have that, like, and then there's a match between the two remaining at the end. I forgot that they did that in their format. So I'm looking forward to KOR versus Adam Cole. So that's good. But we will move along. You know what I forgot to mention was that we have the Hurt Syndicate backstage in a good segment that turned extremely predictable. Like, MVP has just been one of the most natural talkers since coming in here. And I loved him talking to Shelton, being like, man, I love you and I'm proud of you, but like, we're not losers, man. That's not what we do around here. And then they just beat up some poor security guards. So I see what you wrote in the chat, but if women podcasters don't draw, Ryan, why are you always trying to be right? Why are you trying to be me all the time if women's podcasters don't draw?
Touche. And for that, I say, oh, it doesn't. Wait to see if it shows up that I removed the comment.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. It's not going to show up on ours, but I absolutely removed it.
That's funny. I'll take it.
I'm with you on this, by the way, the way it was handled of like this, because I was worried. I'm like, you're clearly not going to break them up yet. But no, Jesse, I didn't ban myself. I just deleted my own comment.
That would be very funny if you ended up banning yourself.
If I knew how to unban myself, I might have done it for the bit, but I was worried that'd be permanent and didn't really want that. But like I said, I knew it was too early for them to break up. So I'm like, I wonder how they're going to tell this story. And I just like the way it was presented, which is like, what do we do? And you didn't do that. But then they did that. But just to some schmucks who were in the back. But it still made everyone happy that they hurt someone. So I just really liked
that. It was a well done one. I just like this is the Death Rider's whole thing. This is the Death Rider's whole thing right now. So not super into it, but hey, Max Caster is an unlikable idiot, and that seems to be his character now. So there you go. We have the three of them backstage, the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass, and Daddy Ass gives a very mechanical promo about it wasn't any one of us that created this success. It was the three of us together. And then Swerve beats the hell out of him in 3 minutes, and it's a glorified squash. And that was the best thing that they could have done. I think this is stupid, and I don't like it. I think it's a real waste of Swerve. But if you're going to do this, at least they squashed him. But, like, congratulations, you turned your tag and trios champion into a jobber, and that's the most effective thing he can be right now. I don't care where this goes. I care what happens to Anthony Bowens. I have not seen Max Caster do anything of interest to me on television in, I mean, well over a year at this point, probably, I would say. Your thoughts on the segment and the squash?
So I get what they're doing with Swerve. I know what you're saying. Like, why would you use him? I think it's just to show how angry he is. And it's a cheap, easy way of doing that without
running the well dry on someone else or whatever.
Yeah, so I'm okay there. My thing is, I'm believing more and more that Bowens is going to be the Hurt Syndicate guy.
That would be nice.
Why would the Hurt Syndicate want Caster, who just went out and got embarrassed by Swerve? Why is that your guy? Why is that your guy? Meanwhile, Bowens is just furious. Now, sitting there being like, you know what, go prove it. And you're not. So, could be wrong, but I'm just getting more and more of that feeling.
That would be awesome. Bowens and the Hurt Syndicate would be incredible. If he goes out there and has an 11-minute classic with someone, and then Caster is made to look like a fool and jealous. There's some good stuff you could do with that. But let's move along as they kind of reconfirm here the match between Kyle and O'Reilly and Adam Cole. And there's an MJF promo who says everything was great when the best in the world, baby, were running things, but the butterfly effect has caused Roddy Strong to break his arm, and now he has to face Kyle just to face MJF. Cole cheated MJF out of his title for Jon Moxley to win. And he's just sick of it. He's sick of Cole walking around like a hero when he's a villain. This was good from Max. Like, I liked a lot of this. He says he's going to terminate Cole, and Cole can beat O'Reilly, but for that, you can thank him later. I give him a lot of credit for being away, but still being present on the show. And I know there's probably people that are like, that's an ego thing. But, like, he's trying to continue to build feuds while he's off filming movies. I don't think we've really seen that, because I think there's such a built-in thing of it's good when wrestlers take breaks, and then when they come back, they're super over. But Max was out for so long with an injury that he just came back and then he went away to do movies. So I'm glad he's around, because it would have been real weird if he came back to beat Daniel Garcia and then just went away again. So I'm a fan of him doing this. The ones the past couple weeks I think have been good. The one against Roddy where he was talking about his parents, and this one I think are a lot better than like, oh, I'm getting a massage and whatever. Like, just admit that you're watching the show and you're cutting these promos. Instead of like, I happen to be doing this or whatever. Your thoughts on this?
So I'm with you across the board. I liked this promo. I liked his promos the last couple weeks when he has acknowledged he's watching. And I do appreciate that he's recording these while he's out, acting in a movie. Listen, the truth is, as much as it hurts these companies to lose these guys to movies, they also really want it, because it'll help them attract other free agents, and it helps give them, exposure and advertising that they don't have to pay for. When Max is walking the red carpet and he's walking as an AEW wrestler, he's being interviewed as an AEW wrestler. That's great. I do want to point out, unrelated, but I'm going to forget at this point, I'll say this. Great promo from Max. Think he delivered his points perfectly. I do like when he said, you had no proof I was going to turn on you. But like, to me,
there is. Yeah.
But like his acknowledgement of like, but by you turning on me, look what's happened. Your one friend has a broken arm, and you now have to fight your other best friend.
Yeah.
Good job. Like, that's because it's a dickish way to present it, but it's true. And that's the best kind of heel. Well, I like the heels that warp the truth slightly, and Max does that really well. The other thing I want to point out, it's related to Max acting slightly, is during the picture-in-picture tonight, I noticed that one commercial, I'm pretty sure had Channing Tatum as an actor for Cologne. And I never pay attention to those, but I looked because I'm like, what is an established actor doing in these? Which got me to my idea that those picture-in-picture ads should feature wrestlers, because you're going to stop and look and be like, what the hell is going on over here?
That would be fun. That would be fun.
Just an idea.
I liked when Toni Storm had her silent films during the picture-in-pictures. I thought that was the best.
They were amazing.
So much fun. Guys, we are moving along here. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I'm doing my notes on my phone because I don't want to crash my browser like I did earlier. So bear with me as we move along. Please leave a thumbs up on this video. By the way, it helps people find us over here in the algorithm. And please leave a 5-star review if you're listening in audio form, or even if you're not. Head over to iTunes or Spotify. Pretend you listen to us in audio form. And leave us a 5-star review. Talk about how women are the draw around here, and that Ryan is a mutton-chopped cheapskate.
Ryan also just realized he left off the 24 on the date for tonight's episode.
This episode took place December 4th of 1920. So,
well, could have been 2020.
I know, but 19 is funnier.
Yeah, it is.
18 is too far. 19, I'll take it.
There you go.
Well, we move on to Switchblade, Jay White versus the Bastard Pack. And I call him Jay Tan because he's unseasonably tan, Ryan. So that's his new name.
Jay Tan Derulo.
This was an example of something that I was like, man, if there was a story for this properly, this would have been really fun, but I get where they're going with it. I just want the story to be between Jay White and Pac and not Mox, because I love watching Pac work, and I thought him and Switchblade had some very, very fun chemistry tonight. Jay White winning with the Blade Runner, but I loved... I don't love interference and I'm burned out on it, but Yuta picking his spots in this was really good stuff. Like he picked his spots pretty well, other than some of the stuff with the ref, but like him hitting the Psycho knee was really, really good. There was just a really great half and half suplex in here from Jay White earlier in the match. Just fantastic chemistry between these two. This felt like AEW in its bag. Like these two guys going at it. I'm like, this is that shit I like. But Jay White winning, and I like that he wins smart. Like he always seems to be a step ahead of his opponents, and he's never really going to be a baby face. He's Switchblade Jay White, but he's not a proper heel right now. But like this feels like how Jay White should be presented. I'm looking forward to him being in the title match, whether that's a 1-on-1 match or a 4-pack, which is where it seems like it's going. But let's just talk about the match for now, and then we'll talk about the post-match. Was there anything that stood out to you in this match, and did you enjoy it as much as I did? This was longer match times tonight was refreshing. This was another one that was 13 and a half minutes long.
This was a banger.
And not even a tournament match, too, by the way.
No.
Like
Well, that's what I was gonna
that's
say.
pretty good. Yeah.
Until I saw Yuta, I was like, this must be a Continental Classic match. And then I saw Yuta, I'm like, guess not. Totally forgetting, because just how good it was at the two of them. Like, why would you match these two up? In terms of like, they're just at that level. It was very back and forth. The blood coming out of, Switchblade's mouth, while probably not fun for him, did add
Looked
a
really
good,
fucking cool, though.
yeah, and it added an air of coolness to the match. He looked like a badass. I just like that they have Jay White winning clean.
Yes,
like he is so on his, like he's entered the main event picture, and I think that's wonderful because that's what he deserves. And he got real not great booking for the first half of this, so let's give him great booking for the second half. Now I will say, his booking was starting to improve before he got hurt, so I don't know if he needed the injury to get back to this point.
Correct. Yes. Agreed.
It's also just good for AEW to show wrestlers, like, even if you start out with not the greatest booking, we do eventually get you around to it. Sometimes we just have to, wait it out. We can't put sorry, there was a comment I don't understand. So yeah, it was a, like I said, it was a banger of a match. And Pac's not going to be appreciated fully, I think, ever, just because I think injuries and stuff have slowed his career, but he's so good. He's
ridiculous. Like I'm so glad he's okay now because his health stuff was so serious, but I love him being in the mix here, and I like that there are people in this tournament from this stable, but I also am like, I want to see some trios matches with these guys. Really bad. Really bad. So, but post-match, good job by Tony Schiavone on this, saying, like, where there's one Death Rider, there's at least 3 of them, right? So I appreciate that, because Claudio has his match later, so him not coming out makes sense. But Yuta tries to attack Jay White, but Jay White hits that Blade Runner, and Marita Shafir, who rules, is here to distract Jay White so Mox can attack him. We get a paradigm shift, and who comes out but Hangman Page? Cowboy shit chants ringing out. Someone in a black hoodie appears. Weirdly, it's not Solo Sikoa or anybody from the Bloodline. It's Orange Cassidy. Very predictable post-match shenanigans. I cannot sit through months more of this, and I'm going to have to. Like, it's exhausting. It's going to go on, I'm assuming, until I'm thinking it's probably Darby Allin who's eventually going to win. But this is just same shit every week, and it's the same shit that I saw for 3 years in a row already with the Bloodline. But what did you think of the post-match? It all made sense. Like, just from a matter of taste, I didn't like it, but it was all well executed. I can't say that for it.
I'm with you. It was well executed. I liked the orange return. Clearly, I'm an Orange Cassidy mark, so that was awesome.
I'll say, like, I do like that Jay White, Adam Page, and Orange Cassidy being on the same side of things makes no sense, but it's necessary for this. Like, that's pretty cool. Of like, those guys are not allies, right?
It's that thing where the enemy of my enemy is my friend type deal.
Yeah.
The Death Riders have hurt all of them so much that it's like, you know what? We're back, and we'll work together to take you down. The problem I'm having with the Death Rider story is the problem that everyone's having. I don't mind the beatdowns. I don't mind the attacks. I mind how limited they've become.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be an overall thing that no one is safe on the show, that they are sick of everyone, and they seem to only be focusing on a couple guys at a time. Now, granted, it has expanded because you still have Orange Cassidy, you have Darby Allin, you have Switchblade, you have Adam Page. So now you at least have started to, but realistically, they should show up before Rampage goes off the air. Show up during Rampage and just attack an undercard match.
Sure.
Like, just start randomly attacking people and leaving so that it's all encompassing. And I think then the beatdowns wouldn't feel as bad because it'd be a unique story. As it is now, it just feels like any group versus any babyface.
It's also like my problem with the redundancies are, one, it's the same redundancies every week, and two, like they said, he's going to take over the TBS Superstation. He didn't take out anybody in production trucks. It was the same shit. And it's like a vignette, a backstage beatdown, and a numbers game. That's all we're getting. So not only just limited in how they're going about business, but like they don't even really go to Collision. My thing with this is, where is the end game? When is enough for Mox? Who is enough for Mox? How many people are enough for Jon Moxley? Other than generic destruction, what is Jon Moxley actually aiming at? Why is the title in a fucking bag with no explanation? I keep waiting for that to pay off, and it doesn't. Like, I don't
think
get it.
It would have been very funny that when Jon Moxley was seizing the Superstation, if like he's in the ring with Claudio, Yuta, and Pac, and all of a sudden it's like, we can't seem to change the feed. Why? And you see Marina standing over the tech people being like, you're not doing anything. But just letting her be the silent one in the background, being like, not saying a word, just standing there like this.
I kind of feel like Marina should dethrone Moxley. Your thoughts?
But why? She's on the same side.
To turn.
This is where...
Because Marina should be the champion. That's why.
I'm glad they brought Willow in for that one short fight. But like, this is where limiting... It's good that AEW tries to bring women into factions. They don't always do it, but at least because they're clearly not going to do intergender. So if you're not, you're going to need women, and you need a reason for them to be there.
So a couple of people have asked, when the hell is she going to wrestle? I think they're being... I have reason to believe that they're taking an abundance of caution with Willow coming back from a concussion. There's like being able to wrestle again, and then there's being healed from a concussion. And if you're not healed from a concussion and you come back to fight, guess what happens? You get concussed again so easily. Like when they say you're concussion prone, a lot of times, from my understanding, is that happens because you came back too soon. So then you just get concussions really easily for the rest of your life, which sucks. So some more women's segments. We did only get the one match, but some productive stuff for the women on this episode. I think there were up to like 4 or 5 segments total, which is great. Jamie Hayter is here, and she's tired of the mind game. She's a fist to fist, or a face to face, or a fist to face kind of gal. Which, when you have that pretty of a face, that's just unfair to your opponent. Who would want to hurt you? They're too pretty, Jamie Hayter. But she says she came back to AEW to right wrongs and settle scores. For Julia, we get this really cool vignette where she says that, she had this grand comeback. And if people think that Jamie Hayter's comeback at All In is like something special, wait until hers happens. But Jamie's saying that this has nothing to do with Julia. This has to do with the International Women's Cup, which means a lot to Jamie Hayter. And she will fight anytime, anywhere. And I like that. I like that her eyes are still on the prize in this. Like, she's focused on this International Women's Cup. Julia can do whatever spooky shit she wants, but she's staying focused on what she came there to do. So some good stuff. What are your thoughts?
I don't have a lot more to add because you kind of nailed it. It was a very good promo.
Thank you.
I always appreciate that. It's like, I know you do spooky stuff, but that's not going to bother me or get to me. It's like, but it must be because you're acknowledging it.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, no, it's not working.
I'm not mad.
No.
I'm not mad.
Yeah, exactly. As a younger sibling, something that we can identify with, right? So let's move along here. Chris Jericho sucks. What else is new? He's in New York with his New York Minute. He has a cowboy hat on. He's talking about All In Texas. But he's talking about Final Battle. I honestly didn't pay any attention to this. None. Zero attention was paid.
Let's just move on from this.
Okay. Thanks, Ryan. Well, now we get a promo set in the Wild Wild West. If you go ahead, you can do
Wild West, Jim West, Desperado, Rough Rider. No, you don't want none of this. Six gunniness from the runniness, Buffalo Soldier. Look, it's like I told you.
I knew when I saw this and wrote down in my notes Wild West, I was like, he's gonna do the thing. He's gonna sing the song. But Bandito is a wanted man is the net of this. I didn't love some of the acting. It felt a little hokey, but I did love this idea of Bandito being a wanted man. I am so ready for this guy to be back. He's been out a very long time. I remember Sean looked it up, but it's been like, I think 18 months or more, which like we forget because he was rumored to be coming back and then he wasn't and all this stuff. So I'm just glad. I'm glad he's on his way back. I think this was a fun idea. I think the execution on the acting side wasn't the best, but I did appreciate it. What were your thoughts on Bandito and OMG? Are you so excited he's back?
You don't want to see my hand where my hip be at? Sorry.
Well, that I know to be true, yeah.
So first of all, honestly, when I first watched and saw the thing, the promo or vignette, I legitimately thought it was going to be a Christmas Story ad where they were going to show him shooting Black
I didn't
Bart.
know if it was a part of the show either. I was
That's
like,
what I'm
is this a
saying.
commercial or is it? Yeah. Yep.
I thought it was an ad for Black Bart and,
sure.
But I'm so happy Bandito's back. The coolest mask in wrestling, and such a good wrestler. The only sad thing is that Bounty Hunter Brian Keith is now Bad Apple.
Yeah.
And I would really enjoy a Most Wanted versus Bounty Hunter story.
That would be really fun. A lot of people have been calling for this since before I think Bandito was even injured. They were like, give us Bandito, Brian Keith, and Hangman, and just like an outlaw stable, which would be so fun. One LT photo kind of clarifying the trajectory. Yeah, that's how I remembered it too, but I tried to not, if I'm not 100% sure, I try not to speak on injuries, but you saying it, like he got injury and then his surgery failed and he needed another one, which is how I remembered it too, which is just such a long road as a wrestler. Like that happened with Kyle O'Reilly at a spinal fusion, like just brutal. But if you watch Kyle O'Reilly on AEW, it doesn't seem so brutal. He's just such a goofball. So, but we had our women's match that we already talked about, and following that, we do have Renee sitting down with Mariah May, and one of the more refreshing segments that we've seen. That was a weird champagne celebration situation that they did at the pay-per-view, but I did like this a whole lot. She's mean to Renee too, because everyone's just mean to Renee. She should join the Death Riders and check all these people's egos, but she thinks that giving Mina a title shot is generous and says shaking your tits only gets you so far. And that the entire division is beep. But Mina comes in with a champagne bottle and goes to gesture to hit Mariah, but demands Mariah hit her in the face that winter is coming. Make me work, she said. This was nice. This was nice. And so now we know. Winter is coming. Mina Shirakawa versus Mariah May feels very, very overdue, but this was a better segment than we've been getting of recent from these. At least in my opinion, I liked this.
I enjoyed a couple of things. I enjoyed Mariah May acknowledging Thunder Rosa's holding up that sign and then using it for her own story.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed that it made Mina look badass by saying, like, do it to my face. Like, such a badass moment. I do have a question, though. There's a spot early on in this interview where if they have the camera on Renee and you see someone running behind Renee, I'm fairly certain that was Mina running to get in place.
I think it was too, and I don't even know if we weren't supposed to see it. I don't know if we were supposed to like, see her running through,
because I don't know how you'd miss it.
Yeah, it was pretty blatant. It was pretty blatant.
It just made me laugh so hard.
It was a good one. It was a good one. Whether it was a production error or intentional, it felt like she was running from across the other side of the building by the end of this. So
wanted to still sneak up on her, so she had to go behind. She had to run away.
Yeah, that's why it feels very that era of slapstick comedy. That's why I thought it might be intentional, but I don't know. Well, that brings us to our main event. Claudio winning here, being a 6-point leader in the clubhouse over Brody King, and forever in this tournament as long as he's facing guys, especially like Brody King. Will I tweet out Kevin Owens being like, talk about Low-Ki, saying, you don't want to lose to me? Fine. You don't want to lose to Generico? That's one thing. This is back in ROH days. Because you don't want to lose to Claudio Castagnoli. He's a horse. He's a human horse. And that always pops me, but on a day where he's just in this hoss battle with Brody King, this was so much fun. I had so much fun watching this match. This was so different for Claudio because he is a really, really strong dude. And he got to do a lot of strong dude stuff in this match. But Brody King is a sizable fella. So this was just fun because it was such a different type of match for him. I had a blast. I had a blast watching this. And I figured he was going to win. I thought it could go Brody's way because I think they're going to want to kind of keep it more even. But I had fun with this one. What did you think of our main event?
I just want to know how any match with Claudio, and a lot of them are, how, oh no, did I lose her? All right, so I'll give my opinion while Kate just doesn't exist. Somehow Claudio, looking like he looks, being built like he's built, has hoss matches, and I just don't understand it. You're not supposed to look like that and be in these big man matches the way he is. He has that inhuman strength that a lot of wrestlers want to pretend they have, but he actually has it, and that's just impressive. Oh, I don't know what's going to happen to Kate, and I have to look at my ugly mug. Brody King is a big boy. My favorite memory of Brody King, Kate would have been there for this, was at an ROH show before AEW bought it. And they were throwing the streamers. It's in Philly, and they're throwing streamers. And someone threw a streamer, and it didn't stream. It just stayed in the ball. And he just turns to the crowd and goes, that was a terrible throw. I just thought that was really funny because he's Brody King. One LT, you're saying Bandito has that strength too? I don't know if he has Claudio's strength. Claudio's strength is next level. Like, that's almost as strong as me, but not quite. We'll get there one day. Guys, I'm vamping. I'm not good at vamping. But Claudio did win. I saw who said it. 1LT didn't like the dick kick. Here's the thing. I think they need to have Claudio cheat because you almost know he doesn't need to cheat to win. It's one of those things when a heel who cheats is the type of heel who doesn't need to cheat. It just feels worse because it means that they're not doing it out of desperation. They're choosing to go down this path. At least that's my opinion. I don't know. Kate, what do you think? Great. So that's just my opinion on things. That's what they're choosing. They're choosing to cheat even though they don't have to. It's what's interesting is there was nothing after the match. Okay, 1LT. I'll get back to it. 1LT saying after Kyle kind of cheating earlier though. I agree, but it was different types of cheating, rope hold versus dick kick, and heels are going to heel, baby. I don't mind heels cheating. I mind when they cheat with outside interference. It's a personal preference. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just my personal feeling that that's what they do to be evil. But I get for you, it rubs you the wrong way. Not going to fight you on it. I'm going to tell you you're wrong, but that's just me. What was shocking is there was nothing after the show. Kate's computer hates her. Yes, Jesse gets it, but I am saying you are wrong. I know they had their big Death Rider beat up earlier in the show, but I really did expect, not necessarily on Brody King, but maybe a Darby intervention, something. I don't know what I expected, but they've been going out so much on these big fights and feuds that computer needs an update. I'm going to wrap this up. That it's amazing they didn't. Hold on, guys. I'm telling Kate I'm just going to end it. So that was our show. I enjoyed it. Kate, how'd you feel? Kate enjoyed it greatly. Really had a good time. I think most of the chat enjoyed it. Meet Norm is coming in late. Thanks everyone for being in here. 1LT, Jesse Ozog, Meet Normus, Big G, Scott George, LaRon Ford, Asian Joe, Tim McFall, Matthew Hooks, and there was a couple others. I apologize if I'm missing you. Taylor Cannon, and I apologize if I'm missing anyone. You guys are awesome. I'm really glad that you guys show up in the chat. It makes doing this a lot better. It's no fun when it's just us. The comments, when there's comments in here. Oh, Kate's computer works well enough for her to comment. I see how it is. But yeah, so 3 funds, an 8 out of 10. I think this was definitely, I'm actually going to agree with 1LT and say this was a lot of fun. A 3 out of 4 on the fun scale. So we had a good time. With that, I'm going to tell you where you can find us. You can find Kate on Fightful pretty much every other night of the week besides Wednesdays when she's here. She's on at Miss Kate Fave on all socials. I would also really encourage you to go to her YouTube page, which she's commenting from. Miss Kate Fave, no Will Smith sing-alongs from my computer. Just Ricardo just got in. Sorry, Ricardo. Kate's computer broke, so I'm wrapping it up so that I'm not hosting solo. But Kate, please go to Kate's YouTube page and watch the videos. I think she's put out one every day this week. They've been really good. The up-and-comers in the women's divisions in the various companies, including the independents, the fantasy booking, the New Day, what AEW should fix, what WWE should fix. It's a whole lot of stuff. Really, please go check them out. I really encourage you to do that. You can check out my stuff. I'm on running our socials on all channels at Mark Order Pod. But you can also follow my history blog, hereforhistory.com. On Twitter, it's at _hereforhistory. On Blue Sky, it's Here for History. I'm going to have a new article out relatively soon, and I'm actually trying to do some videos. I'm editing one. I don't like it. Wait a minute. Holy good God.
Why would I miss?
Oh my God.
I was gonna let you just wrap up, but I was like, it would just be so much funnier if I interrupted. And I also saw that like Ricardo and Taylor and me, Normus, were here, so I thought I would come in and say hi. And I think I'm actually gonna go live on my YouTube channel after this, if my computer stops being a little bitch, to talk about do my 5 things video live and see what people think AEW is actually doing very well, because I feel like it's been very negative lately. I've got my 5 things to talk about that. So I was like, you know what? Let me do that as like a late night slumber party live and see what happens. So come hang out over there if my computer doesn't crash.
And if your computer crashes, guys, there's no me to vamp, so I don't know what we're going to do.
I know, no fun scale. I was like, I cannot believe the chat is calling for the fun scale. Like Ryan gets stranded alone and they were like, we're here for you.
The fun scale is a hit.
It is. It is.
I'm going to say this. It's way worse to be stranded alone during an episode than if I thought I had to go alone.
Yep. Oh, it's the worst. It's the worst. Been there. Not fun.
So I'll finish my wrap up.
Sure.
So look out for maybe a new blog in the next couple weeks. And like I said, I'm going to be dropping a YouTube podcast thing, editing it. I hate it. I don't like the way I sound. But the first one's going to be bad, but they'll get better as they go. But there you go. So with that, I've plugged Kate like 6 different ways, but please go see her. That sounded wrong.
Don't clip
I
that.
have plugged Kate's stuff. I have plugged Kate's stuff. I caught it. But please go to her YouTube channel after this. I'm sure she'll probably want to go get a drink or something in between, but she will be going live. And please support her. So with that, I do my little put up the overlay, the outro. Where is it? There it is. And then I play the show outro.
This concludes the Mark Order podcast. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming.